Per usual, Suncast, I'm an idiot. I've been sitting here trying to talk to you and forgot that I didn't have the other end of the receiver on. Thought you were just ignoring me as usual. Let me make sure this is all good. I think it's good on this end.
You're good on this end.
Just your contributions to society, Paul, just keep going up.
Continue unabated.
Yeah.
Points for consistency.
At least you're not raising the bar. All right, I think I'm ready. I guess you could flick it over live, Suncast, if you want.
Yes,
oh, you did.
If you would. Flick it.
Uh-oh. We were off to a blazing start because my image is clearly frozen.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm white, but I'm not completely transparent. I do tan occasionally.
More of a translucency, really.
Let me reconnect to this one. Oh, that image is completely frozen.
Hmm.
It connects, but then Firefox has updated recently, which is probably why.
They still update Firefox?
Suncast, you might have to call me on Skype. I have no idea why this is. Yeah, this thing is. Thank you, Firefox, for updating, and now it loads, but then it's completely frozen.
Brad, if you're suggesting that regular updates are a problem, I guess I'm going to have to disagree with you. Well, at least you're using Miracast. That should fix everything.
Oh, we're gonna. Suncast, can you call me on Skype? The confidence is overwhelming.
That's a thing, isn't it? Skype?
You know, so Chrome doesn't let me switch between my media settings for whatever reason.
I have a rich history with figuring that out if you'd like some help.
The problem is if I ask you, it's going to be sarcastic help.
No, I'm serious. Unfortunately, I've had to do this a lot.
What camera is it showing? Well, what do you see on your end?
Big redheaded goon.
Audio video settings. It is not supposed to be on this front camera. Oh, what's it? Paul, you liar. So does
What?
it? Can you flip to my camera?
What have I done?
All right. Well, thank you, Firefox.
Oh, why am I still in there? Excuse me, I have an important IT-related thing I was doing.
Jesus. Who doesn't love a live show? All right, let's get that up and running. I'm sure the comment section is just very accommodating to life.
Okay.
Hold on. Are we getting an echo? Oh, Suncast, you had no echo, and now we do. Maybe not. I don't think I hear it now.
Yeah, why don't you flick something and, you know.
I don't know. Is there an echo? I don't hear it on my end, so. Do I hear an echo? No. No, I don't.
I do not.
All right, I am maybe ready. Nope.
No, no, no.
I hope nobody's planning on doing anything today. All right,
Yeah, no,
I'm
you're
ready.
just the only thing standing between me and the weekend, so take your time.
Oh, I will. Don't give me such power,
Maybe,
Paul.
maybe should have kept that one to myself.
Hmm. I'm ready. Hello, everybody, and welcome to First Ring Daily. Today's show is brought to you by Smart Deploy, hardware-independent imaging software for 50 to 50,000 users. How's it going, Paul?
It's going pretty well. Kind of
Is it?
recovering from yesterday's spaz attack. Yeah, it's been kind of a busy week.
Yeah, I was thinking Microsoft hasn't. Oh, I drugged that to the wrong screen. We are a technology
I
show
like
here,
that you
folks.
used the non-word
Uh,
drug, by the way. Yes.
I wish Microsoft would only have announced 5 more things this week.
Yeah, and maybe like one more database product. You know, it's been a few weeks.
Yeah, they announced Cosmos DB. Maybe we can get some Galactic DB or something. I don't know what supersedes Cosmos DB, but I'm sure they could tell us.
How are you doing, Brad?
Curious. Well, we had a little for those watching the pre-show calamity. This is the problem that I have sometimes with updates. So we use a service often called vmixcall.com, and when I open Firefox to log into that good stuff right before the show, it says, "Hey, your version of Firefox has been updated." I'm like, "All right, whatever."
Yep.
The problem is that completely broke vmix call for us. So
Hilarious.
yeah, absolutely hilarious. But speaking of Firefox and browsers, and look at this segue, Paul. How's Edge working out for you on the phone?
Well, right now it's just in a preview and it's on iOS. And as you may recall, I recently switched to Android. So I've just kind of tested it. But the one thing I did today was, I should say, by the way, it's fine. There's been a lot of kind of nitpicky complaints about, tab syncing isn't there yet or whatever. Yeah, It's the first preview. To me, that's just like, relax, it's happening. But, I've got kind of an ongoing thing with Edge where I'd like to use Microsoft's browser on the desktop, especially. And I was curious, when this thing is complete, if this thing were feature complete, how would this meet my needs? And I went back and because every version of Windows 10, I look at Edge and I kind of list out the stuff that still isn't right. And there's still a bunch of stuff in the latest version, unfortunately. Mobile's one of the big ones. And so, PWAs is one of the big ones, right? And so that's something we know is happening in the next version of Windows 10 in the spring. And I think if you look at the timing of this preview release, that this is something that's going to be tied to that spring update to Windows 10 that's coming in March or April. It's a very early preview right now. The Android preview isn't even out yet. There's no iPad version, by the way. I tested that last night. I'm glad they're testing it. I think it's smart. It's the right thing to do. But we're still 6 months-ish away from this thing making a difference. And frankly, there are still so many other things about Edge that aren't working for me that we'll have to wait and see what they do in Edge for the desktop for the next update.
Yeah, and my lack of cognitive ability is very clearly one thing they told us is that password syncing is not yet working, right? And so I'm using Edge on my phone. Yeah. Yep, I'm using it. I'm like, oh, why can't I log into Thurrott? Like, this is garbage. And so, I just stopped using it. But it's like, oh, wait, they told us that's coming. I'll be curious to see how quickly they update. I'll be curious to see how quickly they update this stuff. It's already gotten one update on iOS already, by the way.
Yeah. Password, I would say, is crucial. Like, when you think about something like bookmark sync or whatever, favorite sync, you could do that one-time thing. If you wanted to use Chrome or Safari on your mobile device, you could do a sync on the desktop. Well, actually not for Safari, I guess. You could do a multi-stage sync. It's not a sync. It's actually more of a copy your settings over. So doing that to Safari would actually involve using Chrome first, then going to a Mac and using Chrome to get it into Safari. The long story. Anyway, the point is, I don't really change my bookmarks all that much. So honestly, that's not a big deal, but password sync is a huge deal, right? And that's kind of a big thing. And I do think that there's some benefit to the continue on PC functionality, and whether that takes the form of, reading list, which is kind of a save it later, which now works across mobile, which is nice, or just the ability to say, hey, look, I'm doing this thing on my Edge browser on one device. It doesn't matter if it's a Windows PC or an Android phone or whatever. I want to work on that on a different device. I think that stuff is pretty cool too. So, it's fine. I think they're going to get it there. I think it's okay.
Yeah, actually, and I'll be curious to see if this is the same way for anybody else. Actually, after using Edge on my phone, is like, man, maybe I should give it another try on the desktop. And actually, once the fall creators update comes out, I will do my semi-annual. Yeah. All right, we're going to use Edge for a week, and let's see how this actually plays out. So,
I have my suspicions about how that's going to go.
Yeah, and to be honest, the thing that's jumping out in my mind that's going to keep me from it is going to reside in the context menu when I right-click on things, is what I'm worried about.
Actually, that is faster in the False Creators Update. Is that what you're getting at, the speed of it, or just the quality?
No. The options inside of that, because much like you, right, I write a lot, and a lot of times you get a right-click, save images, right-click, open image in new tab, right-click, duplicate tab. Like, I need these things in the workflow, and if those aren't there, I'm going to write a post, and I'll tell you what it's going to be called now. It's called the 10 Stupid Reasons Brad Can't Switch to Edge.
Yeah, I have the same thing. Yep. I mean, I use the developer tools in Chrome, which I find, to make sense to me. I think in some cases, depending on the site, depending on the way the page is constructed, you can in fact grab images out of there in Edge. But I find that to be nonsensical right now. And, I know it's a very specific thing. It's not mainstream. I get it. But for me, it's one of the, 10 stupid things that just I just can't use this thing.
Yeah.
I want to.
Yep.
I like the way it looks.
I do. As do I. Actually, I very much like the way it looks.
Yeah. And
so. Yep. Paul, how do you feel about arguing?
Well, what do you mean, Brad?
We're going to continue an argument. So you'll see where this is going. So Intel, Paul, you wrote up, is bringing their 8th generation chips to the desktop. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. And we really only have about 30 minutes, so I'm going to have to cut to the chase. Intel, with this generation of core processors, has decided to combine chips that are rightfully associated with the previous gen, chips that we could arguably say are, in fact, something that would be a new gen. And then hilariously, and this is my favorite part of the story, is in the future, they will drag in chips from what would have been the next gen after that and still call them 8th generation Intel core processors. So really on the second stage of this release. The first stage involved what they call Kaby Lake refresh chips, basically quad core versions of the dual core mobile chips that they had, from actually only 9 months ago. They didn't launch that long ago. Limited availability, flagship PCs only, major PC makers only, very hard to find. The desktop chips that ship this week represent a similar kind of performance boost for people who are doing multi-threaded activities like you would be with video editing. So they went from 4 cores to 6 cores. And for those types of workloads, like this is actually a fairly dramatic performance improvement.
Sure.
For, desktop productivity work, it's 10%-ish. But for other people, for people that have maybe workstation type needs or higher end needs, it's actually a pretty significant advantage. So where does the argument fall here?
So what is the name of these chips? What's the code name?
Oh, well, these ones are Coffee Lake.
Mm-hmm. And what was the stupid joke I said on Twitter why I can't use these chips? Because I don't drink coffee, and orange juice is better for you.
And as I pointed out, orange juice is sugar and is in fact not good for you. It is in fact as bad for you as drinking Coke.
So Paul, yes. Paul, I'm going to take you down a trip, down memory lane, a trip lane, whatever you want to call it, called Health Isn't All About Me. Do you know what else is in orange juice in abundant quantity?
What else is in orange juice?
Yep.
Are you going to say something stupid like vitamin C?
No. Citric acid.
Just citric acid. Okay.
Citric acid. And you know what citric acid is good for, Paul?
Nope. No,
it's really good at breaking down. It's really, really good at breaking down kidney stones.
Yeah.
Yes.
You need to figure out a way. I know you have this problem, right? From time to time, you have to pass something that's the size of an acorn. Okay, I think I see where this is going. I don't know anything about citric acid, but I would recommend finding some source of citric acid that's not tied to as much sugar as in Kool-Aid. That's it.
Actually, what I drink is it's a naked juice. That's the brand. It's not even actually pure orange juice. It's like 1/4 orange, like part banana. It's basically just a fruit conglomerate, but it gives me the recommended citric acid that they're now recommending to avoid kidney stones. So, anyways,
I have not experienced kidney stones, but I know from talking to you that it is not pleasant.
Yeah, no, it's not something. You really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of things you don't really want to do, giving your IP address to Raphael would probably be one of those things, because he does.
I know. He's evil.
Yeah.
He is an evil genius.
Yep. So for those who are not familiar with him, his name is Raphael Riviera. He writes on Thurrott, and he is pretty close to if we were going to say who's the evil genius of the group, it would be Raph. He is quick with the fingers, even faster in the registry, I think would be his superhero tagline. But what he's actually figured out is in the latest skip ahead branch is that Cloud Clipboard that originally, I believe, started life, at least conceptually, as one clip 5 years ago, is now starting to show up in the core OS, and he was able to unlock some of those capabilities. But unfortunately, it doesn't work yet, because according to him, it is not tied into the Microsoft Graph at this point. But at least the UI components are starting to show up. And so Raph doing what Raph does best. Yeah,
he did this before with some, I guess, Fall Creators Update features, right? Where you grab an early build and you look and you're like, actually, this stuff is kind of hidden in here. Remember, he found the My People stuff. Back in the day. That might have been Creators Update. I don't remember when that was, but he was able to kind of shed light on that stuff before Microsoft was ready to release it.
Yeah, that's kind of just what he does is
Yep.
He's the coal miner, I think would also be another way, or the scuba diver. Because the last time I tried to do anything like this, I ended up destroying my machine, and I learned my lesson to just wait for Raph.
That's right. Yep. I don't even try. I could never do this.
So, Paul, speaking of destroying your machines, if you work in IT, there's a very good chance you're working with anywhere from 50 to, let's just say, 50,000 computers. IT shops range in size, but there's one thing that every IT shop does, and more than likely you regret doing it. It's deploying images to new machines. It happens from ransomware, hard drives breaking down, you name it. But the folks here at Smart Deploy, they actually have a better solution. They've got a better way to deploy images to machines to take that process from being the worst part of your week to, quite honestly, might be the best part of your week. Dare I say, you might even enjoy it, but I can probably guess that you will no longer regret it. And they're actually putting their weight behind this product, as any good company would do. And they're giving away to Thurrott users 15 free licenses. And these aren't like you go grab the license and in 2 weeks, they're going to hit you up for a credit card once you're... Nope, no. These are lifetime licenses for up to 15 machines. And you can go to smartdeploy.com/Thurrott and grab those. Like I said, they're completely free, definitely worth trying out, because these guys have taken the pain out of deploying images for the corporate user. So go check them out. That's smartdeploy.com/Thurrott. Yeah, buddy. Still with us, Paul?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Oh, gosh. There's been a lot happening this week, specifically around Surface Brand. And I don't know if you caught this tweet, but Walking Cat, who I will dare say friend of the show, friend of the humans, he cryptically tweeted out a couple days ago. He goes, I wonder if there's a 15-inch Surface Book coming.
Yeah, curious. Why would he say that?
Well, let's just put it this way. Walking Cat isn't somebody who just randomly tweets things. I've never seen him just wonder out loud.
He's like a Raphael type.
Yeah, no, He's
Right.
the Raphael who I don't know if he has a day job in any capacity, but that works out to our benefit because he is the one spelunking.
Yeah.
We'll just call him the web version of Raph. Raph is offline or on premises, and Walking Cat is the online cloud version of that. But anyways, he cryptically tweeted out, he says, "I wonder if there's a 15-inch Surface Book coming." And so to me, that says he's found something that gives him a hint that either a new Surface Book is coming at some unannounced point in the future, or potentially, Paul, and I know how much you love the 15-inch size.
I know.
I wonder.
So you've got a Surface Book there, right? So if you don't mind, turn that thing around so we can see the front of it and look at the screen. Just to see.
This is going to be embarrassing. You're going to find out I'm just looking at memes all day long.
Yeah. So it's the kitten gifs. I wanted to sort of see if that clipboard part there, a clip book or whatever they call it, would accommodate a 15-inch screen. And I guess not. So in other words, it'd be close. Yeah, unless they went bezel-less, but you wouldn't be able to pick something like that up very easily, would you, as a tablet?
But they could, I think, work around that. But
yeah, I think so. Maybe
it would be close. I was thinking the same thing too.
13.5, right? So that looks like it could almost make it.
Yeah, that's I'm trying to do the math. That's like a quarter to a half inch, I think, diagonally to get that which they could do it.
It could do it.
That would be interesting.
Because the problem with Surface Book is that it's a low volume device. It's an expensive device, and so if you're going to make a second version of that, you could make a much better case for a 15-inch version of the Surface laptop, right? That to me would make tons of sense. But maybe a 15-inch is a way to differentiate further from the Surface laptop, which has roughly the same size screen, not quite the same resolution, but close enough. And maybe that's the differentiator. It's the Surface Book becomes the big one or whatever. So I've never heard anything about a new Surface Book. I can't corroborate nor deny that rumor.
The only reason I bring it up, if anybody else had just tweeted, "Hey, what if 15-inch Surface Book would be awesome?"
Yeah, what about it? What if, Brad, Microsoft made something called the Lumia 1050 XL? Well, hold on, stay with me. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, what if?
Yep, it's a fun what if, but Walking Cat isn't really a what if person. He's more like a what I see type person, and then he regurgitates that very helpfully out on his Twitter account. So
yeah, like maybe he's seen something that suggests such a thing might exist, or it might be at least testing.
Yeah, which would go completely against some of the more click-friendly headlines, you might call them, that says Surface is going away in 2018.
Yeah, 2019. Please get your fake facts correct.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. We're all making things up these days anyway, so what's the difference?
Oh God.
So I looked this one up, right? I look, I will say this. I mean, there's some weirdness from Surface lately, right? They were kind of off schedule. There's been no explanation. There's no Surface event this fall, but he's going to appear, the Panos that is, in London, and it's like, there are a lot of questions, right? And you can look across the product line and kind of say, well, they could do this, they could do this. We've talked about architectural changes to Thunderbolt 3 and USB-C, and what's going on with these guys. So there are questions, and obviously you can also sort of surmise that Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, has been very aggressive about business units justifying them existing. That you need to make money and make sense and provide customer benefit and so on. You can look at the PC business and say, hey, actually, there are a lot of PC makers now doing a great job in the premium PC space. Lenovo, obviously, but HP, which is now the #1 PC maker in the world, Dell, Acer, Asus, whoever you care to name. There's like a lot of good stuff going on there. Does Surface even need to exist? That's all. That stuff is just a conversation, right? But when someone from like Canalsys or whatever the name of the company is, and an analyst, a market analyst, comes out and says, I believe that Microsoft's going to cancel this thing in 2019, by the way, very specific date. You kind of have to go look at that and say, well, where did this come from? Like, what information is this based on? Does he have channel sources that have told him this? Is this based on insider information? And the answer is no. This guy has literally done like a psychological analysis of Satya Nadella, and he says, using the reasoning that this guy uses to make decisions, I believe that this is going to happen. I don't know where the date came from, but this is the kind of a date. So This little pronouncement was made at some like little industry event or little CanalSys event or whatever. And so the register, I think it was, went and asked, well, let's see what the other PC makers think. And here's the thing, Brad, this is hilarious. You know, PC makers are still really burned about Surface. They're really burned about Surface. Like, they hate that Microsoft entered the PC market. I know. Lenovo, notably, is the one that is still carrying a grudge. And we know this because Lenovo is the one PC maker that hasn't kind of gone along and, you know, done all the Microsoft-y things lately and joined the different initiatives. Like, everyone else has been kind of on board with the Microsoft stuff, but Lenovo, not so much. And so they got a guy from Lenovo. Granted, this was in Europe, so this could have been like nobody from Lenovo, but some guy from Lenovo who said, yeah, I think they're going to do the same thing. And I think that makes sense. They should leave the PC industry, you know, and it's like, not based on anything, just this guy's opinion, you know. And then they said, well, God, this is going crazy. Let's ask someone else. And they asked a guy from Dell. And Dell was like, yeah, I don't know. And so it became like CanalSys or whatever that company is, Lenovo and Dell all think Microsoft is going to leave the PC business. And it's like, that's not necessarily a story. Yeah. So look, the funny thing about this is because Microsoft is Microsoft and things change all the time, Microsoft could cancel service. They could do it tomorrow. They could do it in 2 years. They could do it in 5 years. This could happen. That doesn't mean that these guys were right. You know, they didn't, you know, it doesn't mean that they had some source that gave them the right information. This was just an opinion. Like, we can all make little pronouncements about what we think is going to happen and then cherry pick our victories in the future when those things do happen. But this is just baloney. Like, it's not even a story. Now, that said, while I'm talking, Microsoft is canceling the Surface line. But, you know, we'll have to see what happens.
My biggest argument about why they won't, some people are like, oh, they canceled Groove. That's a consumer product. They'll cancel Surface. Here's the difference. You know, roughly speaking, and it's not every quarter. I know sometimes they have down quarters, but on some quarters, Surface does $1 billion in revenue. Just revenue. It doesn't matter. Don't care about net income at this point. It's very hard to get anything ever to make $1 billion in revenue. It's much easier to take something that has $1 billion in revenue and make it profitable than it is to take something that has no revenue and make it have $1 billion in revenue. Like, it's very hard to do that. And so
those things aren't comparable in any way, shape, or form. You got to remember, Microsoft kept Groove going for 11 years. 11 years, you know, that thing never made any money. You're right. Surface is $1 billion business. That's how we characterize those things. It is $1 billion business. But more important, they have erected an incredible infrastructure to serve their most important customer base, which is enterprises. Surface is not something you go to Best Buy and buy, although maybe you could do that. Surface is something that businesses buy in bulk from resellers who have value on top of that with their own services and support systems and all kinds of other things. This is not a small effort. You know, it's also more of a sustainable effort than something like Microsoft's Windows Phone business, especially after they bought Lumia or Nokia rather, because, you know, one of the things that they got sucked into was the old-fashioned way that Nokia did things with all their own employees working at their own factories, their own manufacturing facilities, their own design houses. Those guys all had major European-style wages and healthcare packages and benefits and all kinds of other stuff. There's huge costs associated with this stuff. You know, Microsoft is not directly manufacturing these things anymore, right? They're doing the things, they're doing Surface the way everyone does manufacturing these days. So it's a more efficient business as well. I'm not saying that overall, you know, what has it been? How many years has it been since 2012? Yeah, 5 years-ish since they started Surface. I don't mean to say like 5 years in, it's profitable overall over the course of the 5 years. I mean, that's not really how any corporation measures anything anyway, but it is by any measure a successful business.
Yep. So speaking of successful business, Paul, when you wrote this today, you said, what a fool believes, and I just figured it was going to be a 1,000-word riff on my life. But,
just a picture of you.
maybe a gif of me and some cats while you're explaining quantum
This is a picture of you disappointing your child. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, yeah. Is this a fool me once, shame on me type thing about Microsoft services, I hope?
Yeah, it's sort of. And I wanted, you know, I hope it was obvious. The feedback that I've seen so far has been positive, and that's good. You know, someone on Twitter yesterday sort of said, you know, it seems like you're mocking your fans, you know, when you say that you guys never learn with these Microsoft consumer things. I know I don't intend it that way. And I wanted to be clear in this article, at least, that I sort of lump myself into this category, the I want to believe category, right? Microsoft has been very successful on the commercial side, which commercial meaning business plus government plus education, the businesses and things that are like businesses. Honestly, with some rare exceptions. I mean, obviously Xbox might fall into this category. Not so much on the consumer side. And as I just said about Groove, there's a growing discontent among the fan base about the stuff and how Microsoft always seems to cancel people's favorite projects or products or whatever. Yeah, okay. Again, there are always exceptions. Microsoft Band is a great one because it was only around for a couple of years. But most of the things that people really complain about the most, Zune, Music Pass, Media Center, home server, whatever, pick your favorites. Those things were all around for a long time, actually, if you really go and look at it. And like I said, in the case of Groove, Music Pass, that thing, Microsoft kept that thing going for 11 years. That's crazy. Like that thing was a waste of time and money from day one. Like it was pointless. So I'm kind of a mixed mind. Like I feel like Microsoft does actually really try. And I feel like they believe internally, if we build it, they will come, meaning the customer base that there's all these arguments you can make that make sense. Like they seem to make sense. Our business customers are people. People go home and they use personal technology. If they have a good experience with Microsoft products at work, they will come home and they will use Microsoft products at home. Yeah, it makes sense. It doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen. And the way the world has evolved, the PC has become a tool for work. It's not where we do everything anymore. We do the fun stuff on phones and tablets sometimes. Most people don't do that stuff on PCs. And it's kind of made the thing that Microsoft can take advantage of super uninteresting to most people on the client, right? Microsoft has huge advantages up in the cloud and on-prem servers and so forth, where they get that virtuous cycle. They don't really get it on client in personal computing. And it's too bad. I mean, I think they make good stuff and I know they keep trying, but I think at some point you just got to be honest about it. It's like, maybe I shouldn't be buying movies from Microsoft service. Maybe that thing's going to disappear. Just common sense.
Yeah, the one thing that somebody did point about, because I know obviously the next thing on the chopping block most people think is movies and TV, is what do they do with the Xbox then? Because that's like the only place right now you can buy that type of content on an Xbox.
Okay, so I have a theory, and this will be like the speculation from the guy from Canalsys or whatever that company is, right? But except that I'm going to be clear that it was speculation. Microsoft just got rid of Groove when Spotify came to the Windows Store. Right? Spotify is an app you can get on Xbox and on Windows. So that kind of solved the problem, right? It's fair to say that music services are less sticky than movie purchases, right? Because people have these libraries of content. It's easy to move someone to a new service. It's easy for you to move yourself to a new service for music. Movies are difficult because you may have bought a bunch of content. I've heard from people on Twitter who say, and I put it over there because that's what Twitter is. I've had people on Twitter tell me that they purchased like hundreds of movies from the Microsoft service, which like even now it gives me like a little chilly up the back that someone would ever do that. It's terrible. So that's a little more complicated of a process. I would say there are one or two things that Microsoft could do to end movies and TV. The first would just say, look, we're just getting rid of it. We're going to let you continue access. The app continues just like Groove does. If you bought something from us, we'll support that, but you can still use it. For 10 years or some amount of time, right? Maybe it might not be indefinite, but Microsoft for now will allow you to keep streaming it, download it, play it offline, whatever. But I think the better approach, and this is where things get really complex, is for a third party to come to the store and offer their movie and TV service on Windows and on the Xbox, right? And for Microsoft to strike a deal with them where they say, look, could you please allow our customers who have bought content to have that content in your store now? I'm completely making this up, but it is interesting and coincidental that the other big Centennial app on the consumer side that's coming soon to the store is iTunes. And iTunes has a movie and TV store. And you never know. The other possibility that's kind of obvious is Amazon. Amazon has this stuff, but they don't have it in the Windows Store. They've never supported the Windows Store in any meaningful way. In fact, the only reason an ebook store exists in Edge right now is because they don't have a good Kindle app. Well, maybe, again, maybe I'm inventing stuff here. I want to be clear about that, but Amazon could solve this problem for Microsoft too, because there's a lot of good streaming services on the Xbox. I think you're right. I don't know that there is another place to buy content on the Xbox for movies. I think. I'm not 100% sure, but that would solve the problem, though.
Yeah, we will see. It was just an interesting observation. Somebody said, then they would have to solve that problem. Of course, Microsoft on the backside also has the metrics about how many people are actually downloading movies and TV from the Xbox dashboard right now. And I can guarantee you that if it's a very marginal amount, I could see them also just whacking it off. And I don't know, letting you.
I mean, you could give people partial refunds. You could. There's all kinds of ways for this to kind of go away. But it's going to be, I think, look, the reaction to Groove, I got to say, was way worse than I thought it was going to be. It really was.
Same.
We've gone through Windows Phone. Well, we sort of have. Like, seriously, every single day of my life, I hear from someone who seems particularly clueless about the fact that Windows Phone is dead, but they insist their 950 XL is a perfectly fine phone, and they would never use an Android. But okay, fine, whatever. But we've pretty much gone through that tsunami of hurt. I think, Groove compared to Windows Phone to me is like nothing. Like, how could this be nearly as bad? And yet this week has been horrific. Like, the backlash from what I would call the community, this Windows fan base or Microsoft fan base, has been way more negative than I could have ever imagined. Not that I expect most normal people to kind of say, it's really nice of Microsoft to support this stupid service for as long as they did it. You can see they didn't make any money and it didn't make any sense, but at least they did it, and good for them. But the reaction we did get was in some ways even crazier. So movies and TV, again, I can't imagine there are that many people using it, but I have to think it's going to be the apocalypse for some people if that ever happens.
Because that's purchased content as opposed to, for the most part, streaming content. So,
that's. I might have to take that week off. It's not going to be good.
I can only hope, because that would make my life better.
Okay.
So, before we get to the follow-up Friday, Alan Alaman asked in the comments, he said, did the Surface survive Brad's daughter test? If you're not familiar with what that sentence means, I highly recommend you go watch the behind-the-scenes video of where Paul and I did probably the most rugged Surface lapability testing ever at Disney World. And unfortunately, that final test didn't end up so well for the Surface. Paul, technically it did work, but...
Did it? I mean, I feel like it would have worked eventually unless the water was treated. I don't mean to give away too much. But, to be
it turned on.
We probably should have had like a little message at the end of the video that says no surfaces were harmed in the making of this video. But the truth is,
they were
kind of one around, But to be fair, it was a Surface 3. So
yes, to all those thinking we trashed a brand new Surface Pro, we're dumb, but we're not that dumb.
Yeah, we're idiots, but we're not. Yeah, we're not off the charts idiots.
Yeah. there is a lower bound to how dumb we are. With that, we're going to do some follow-up Friday here, which is basically where we go back and look at a lot of the comments. Actually, we had one of the highest commented posts this week when Groove was killed, over 200 comments and a lot of good stuff in there. But first, Harm Jr. said on Edge coming to Android and iOS, he says, I wish Microsoft would release a Windows 10 mobile theme for the Android UI. That's an interesting idea, but I don't think they could bring live tiles to Android unless they did it in a widget form factor.
I sort of walked through this some time ago. I don't remember, it could have been a year ago, it could have been 2 years ago. I sort of thought about the same thing. And I think the issue there is you need to have some way to populate the live tiles with information that's consistent, right? That you know, the reason it worked on Windows Mobile is that it's a platform feature, right? So every app natively supports this, and to some degree, you can have different size tiles, different amounts of live data, the ability for the user to turn it off and everything. And I think it would just be one of those things where it would work pretty well for some apps and it would not work at all for others. So I think the thing for that person and whoever else to look at that's interested in this kind of thing is the Microsoft launcher that they just released. In preview beta form. It's a preview and it's a beta. Someone from Microsoft actually explained to me why it's a preview and a beta, but it doesn't really matter. The point is, this is perhaps a more modern look at how Microsoft wants to do some of the integration bits that they tried first with Windows Phone. So, for example, one of the things you can do on their launcher, which is like their replacement for the Android home screen, is pin your contacts individually to the home screen, right? So if I call Brad a lot on the phone, or if I call my wife a lot on the phone, I can actually have like a little icon of their little face, depending on how they configure it. And I can determine what happens when I tap on it. So for example, I actually did do this. So I think for Brad, when I tap on Brad's face, what comes up is a choice of SMS or phone. And for my wife, it just dials her phone number, like her mobile phone number. And I just did that for testing purposes to kind of see how it works. But that's kind of a people-centric UI, right? It's something that Microsoft is still pushing in Windows 10 now with the My People feature and the Fall Creators Update. But it was kind of a core precept of Windows Phone back in the day. And so, it's 2017 now, right? And so it's 6 years later, whatever, 7 years later, whatever it was. Things have evolved. And so I would, rather than duplicate something you like from the past, it's like, I'd like to see the Zune UI on an iPod. Yeah, okay, maybe. But, that might be a more modern way of achieving some of the same ends that they were trying to achieve back then.
Yep. Next comment, which this one actually had me laughing pretty loud, comes from eGab, and it's on the Groove is Canceled. It says, I'm starting to realize I'm a victim of abusive behavior. Let's just make it simple and cancel all non-Azure products.
That's funny. One of my earliest kind of insights like this about Microsoft, this is way back in the day. This is a long, long time ago. In fact, this happened when this happened, Microsoft did still kind of run the personal computing industry. I complained about something that we today see a lot in the Apple world, which is that people just kind of bow down before this company and love everything they do, and they accept kind of abuse. And it's like, guys, you don't understand the relationship here. You're the customer. You're the one who gets the say. If they aren't doing what you like, you complain. And if they don't fix it, you leave. You are the one who has the power. The problem for that kind of stuff with Microsoft is that that group of yous, of us's, is comparatively small compared to their enterprise customers. And so unfortunately, when you make that kind of hard decision on Microsoft's case, they're going to make it, in the way that makes the most sense for them, which is unfortunately to lean toward their enterprise customers. But yeah, we don't, well, I don't know, maybe we have a little bit still, but we don't really see that as much as you see in the Apple world today. But yeah, I think it's important to understand the nature of the relationship you have with these companies that you're, by the way, paying.
Yep, it's your money. That's the best way to speak, is with your money. And if you don't want your money, I'm happy to take it for you.
Yes, I would. I will spend it on your behalf. I will buy a lovely new Surface laptop with it. Yes.
You got anything else going on today, Paul? Or this weekend, for even that matter?
No, next week's going to be another busy week. We're going to New York, as you know, but I might as well just tell the world we're going to New York for a couple of days. And then when we get back, I'm going to Boston to visit friends for kind of a long weekend. But this weekend, no, I'm going to do normal work stuff. I got a lot to catch up on still, so I'll be around. How about you?
Actually, my wife is running a half marathon tomorrow, so she's going to run 13.1 miles. And my daughter and I are going to stand on various places of the course and scream obscenities at her for making. No. She's going to make us get up early, so we're going to be angry.
You should give your daughter like a glass of water and then misinform her about how she's supposed to deliver it.
She is good with directions about how to handle water.
Yes.
That is, yeah, I think that's really about it. I hope. I don't.
Let's go.
I hope that Sunday is filled with football.
Yeah. And I hope that football is as good as Thursday night's football, which was, technically a game of some kind.
Yes, technically a game. Technically a game. Alrighty. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Today's show is brought to you by Smart Deploy, IT tools to manage Windows computers. Pretty much made easier, and you can find that at smartdeploy.com/Thurrott. And as always, thanks for tuning in. We do this Monday through Friday, and we will catch you right back here next week on First Ring Daily. Yeah. Oops.
You know, I created this folder in OneDrive called To Do, and this folder has articles I'm going to write in it. And at one time, it had like 3 or 4 articles, because what would happen is I would write them, and then they would get out of the To Do folder. And now, when I look at the To Do folder, I see that I have exactly 50 items in there. So yeah, I'm doing great.
Are these just Word docs that you're going to open and then write in?
Yep. Yeah, most of them are articles that I've actually started, or at least blocked out in some way. And I actually spent some time earlier today clearing out the old ones that I now know I'm never going to get to, and that's what was left, 50. Yep.
Well, you've got till Monday to catch up.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Less Call of Duty, more writing.
Yeah, exactly.
Duty. I don't know how to phrase that, but well, this is interesting. So this is Miracast. You probably can't see it from here, but clearly no image. Yet there's the mouse. And the
Miracast is nice because it's like a version of Chromecast that doesn't work.
There it is. I say that about YouTube, Paul.
No.